Good evening again, and Sukihutu brothers and sisters. And to all our online viewers, thank you for tuning in to our Dharma sharing of the Breaking Myth series number 13, titled I Need a Lot. Please help us to click like and share our Facebook page. If you have any questions, please post your comments on the Facebook and we'll read out your questions during the Q&A sessions later. Please do allow to give uh, please do allow me to give a brief introduction about Dr. Punna Wong, our distinguished speaker for tonight. Dr. Wong Yin On graduated from the University of Malaya. He joined Monash University, Malaysia in 2007 as Associate Professor in Internal Medicine to form the pioneer faculty of the Clinical School in Johor Bahru. Dr. Wong is based in Johor Bahru since 1990. He has been sharing the Dharma regularly in Malaysia, Singapore, Jakarta for the past 2 decades and was an invited speaker at the 3rd, 7th, and 8th global conferences on Buddhism. Dr. Wong authored his first Dharma book entitled Walking in the Buddha's Footprints, 100 Reflective Essays back in 2016. He had recently launched his second Dharma book entitled Breaking Myths and is now sharing chapters from his book weekly on Friday nights. Without further delay, I would like to hand over the session to Dr. Punna Wong. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Good evening, Dhamma family from all over Malaysia and the region. And blessed Happy New Year to every one of you. Today is the first day of 2021, and we hope that with this new year, the pandemic would improve and hopefully life would also improve. Today's sharing is on the topic of how much do we need? And I thought this is something very relevant to every one of us. And there are also many misconceptions which people have with regards to the Buddhist teachings on wealth, the use of wealth, acquiring wealth. You all remember not too long ago, there was a movie called Crazy Rich Asians. I just changed it to Crazy Rich Buddhists. But some people are, of course, just crazy. They are not rich, but they're just crazy. But you have this concept. Can you be a crazy rich Buddhist and still do very well? Now, when I was in Form 1, in those days, we still have English literature. And in Form 1, the English literature text was short stories by Leo Tolstoy. And many of you in the audience will still remember the Penguin classics. Yes, this is one of those Penguin classics. And some of you may know that Leo Tolstoy is a Russian. He lived in the end of the 19th century when Russia was in turmoil. And Leo Tolstoy himself personally has a very interesting history. But he became very famous as an author of both huge novels and short stories. But what we studied for English literature was a collection of his short stories. And in particular, there was one short story titled, How Much Land Does a Man Need? And that story really struck me even as a 13-year-old boy. In that story, Leo Tolstoy describes about a poor, dirt poor family led by the man Pahom, a peasant living off the ground, literally. And he overhears his wife and the sister-in-law arguing over the merits of farm life versus city life. Their life was now very, very difficult. And Pahom boasted to himself that if he had land, just enough land. He would not fear anything, not even the devil. What in Cantonese, "Kwai Dong Pa." And well, land became available, and Pahom succeeded in buying some of this land. And at first, he was happy, cultivating the land and living off the crops there. And he earned a little bit more money. He bought more land. And this cycle of getting more and more greedy, of course, is something well known to all of us. And as soon as he has opportunity, he buys more and more. And he became a reasonably rich man by the standards of his day. And one day a traveler tells him that far away in the land of the Bashkirs, fertile land is available at very low prices. And immediately Pahom sets off to this place. There he was welcomed and informed that all he need to do is to place 1,000 rubles, and then he can walk. And as he walks, he can put markers. And as long as he returns to the starting point before sunset, all the land that he planted markers on will be his land. And so Pahom thought, oh, that's a very good deal. And so early next morning, he started off at the point witnessed by the villagers, and he planted the first flag, and then he went on. And every time he thought, okay, that's enough for 1,000 rubles, and wanted to turn back, he could see that the land further ahead was rich and fertile. So he walked just that much more, and this scenario kept repeating itself until finally, as he wanted to head back, he realized that the sun is setting very fast. Those of you who have been to temperate countries will realize that it settles actually very fast. And he was worried that he may not reach the starting point in time, and hence he will lose everything. So he runs as fast as he can, but the running proves to be too much for his age and his health. And just as he reaches the starting point, he collapses and dies. So how much land does a man need? Leo Tolstoy ends this short story by answering 6 feet from his feet to his head. Now, as a 13-year-old boy, I was very impressed by this story, but I couldn't really understand its full import until many, many years later. Now, no matter how rich one is materially, ready or not, one day it will all come to an end. And people who are wise will have found meaning in life besides just making money for the sake of making money. Now, a wise person will contemplate on what and how he can do to help society to be better. Well, irrespective of whether he's rich or he's poor, they can contribute. And it does not mean that you can't contribute unless you are a rich person. So don't follow this man here who says, wake me up only when I'm rich. Everyone can contribute. Rich, yes, but not in the title crazy. And in contrast to Western economic models, which has as its mantras, greed is good. Greed is the grease which drives the wheels of commerce. Spend, spend, spend. The Buddha looked at economics from quite an entirely different perspective. Now, I must say at this point that it is a myth. It is definitely a myth. This is a false belief that a person cannot be both rich and spiritual. You can be very rich and spiritual. Money by itself is not evil. The Buddha even taught us how we should earn money. And after earning that money, how it should be spent. In Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha talks of 4 kinds of worldly happiness. And he said there are these 4 kinds of happiness to be won by a householder. Well, the vast majority of us in the audience here are householders. We have families, we work, etc. And we are householders who enjoy sense pleasures from time to time. We visit Malacca, we go eat at Auntie Fatso, we go eat Chate Chalup, etc., etc. Now, what are the 4 kinds of happiness that a householder who enjoys sensual pleasures can enjoy? One is the happiness of ownership, the Buddha said. You have earned your wealth, you have bought your house, your car, etc. That's the happiness of ownership. The happiness of wealth, which can help you do things, the happiness of freedom from debt, and the happiness of blamelessness. That is, you did not acquire your wealth in an illegal way or not a very wholesome way. And the rest explains these 4 kinds of happiness that a householder who earns his own money can enjoy. Of course, there's warnings about money. Do not be so materialistic that it becomes toxic until we sacrifice too much of our life, such as our family, our relationship, in the blind pursuit of wealth. Because ultimately, happiness and pleasure is 2 different things. Pleasure is when you see an opera, for those who enjoy opera. Pleasure is when you drive a new car. Pleasure is when your senses are stimulated in a way that you think is enjoyable. But happiness is 2 different things. Happiness can arise from many, many different aspects. For example, satisfaction in life is more important than success, because whether Sister Eileen is successful or not, if measured by other standards or the standards of other people, it's going to be very difficult, because one might say, oh, if she drives a BMW, then she's successful. Or, oh, if she lives in a bungalow house, then it's successful. But these criteria for success are very, very arbitrary. While satisfaction is measured by her own heart, her own mind. Is she satisfied? Is she content? Is she happy? So happiness is quite different from just the simulation of the senses. You have happiness from the fulfillment of greed versus happiness from the absence of greed. That is the happiness of contentment. And in the Udana, the Buddha said, happiness is in the mind, which is released from worldly bondage. That means Sister Eileen is not too bothered whether her success is measured by the reality of what car she drives, whether it's a BMW or a Proton. To her, it doesn't matter, because she is content. The happiness of sensual lust and the happiness of even heavenly bliss, the Buddha said, is not equal to even a 16th part of the happiness of cravings and, that is to say, the happiness of contentment far more than the happiness of the stimulation of our senses. So money can buy us a lot of stuff, but it may not necessarily buy us happiness. And money is simply a tool for us to reach our dreams. What is this dream is up to us. Every dream we have, every aspiration, every goal takes money to achieve. So money is not the end result, but the tool that we use to reach our dreams and our goals. And we can do a lot of good in the world with money. Now, I do not want you to walk away mistaken. The Buddha never praised poverty. So please do not think that poverty is something that is praised. No, the Buddha never praised poverty. In fact, there's this line called 9 Meals to Anarchy. You can Google it. What it basically tells is that what we call humanity will completely disappear by your 9th missing meal, which is to say, let's say something happens and suddenly food is cut off. On the first day, we might still be very civil. We have missed 3 meals, but we still try to be very civil. On the second day, it's getting to be very, very touchy. And definitely by the third day, you will probably kill your neighbor for food. So all it takes is 9 meals, which are missing, for society to absolutely break down and anarchy to occur. Because none of us can go without food, water, or safety. Now, as I said, the Buddha never praised poverty. So please do not carry that myth. In fact, the Buddha taught that poverty is the source of crime. The Buddha was teaching one of the rulers, and he told the ruler that your people, your citizens, they must be provided with adequate food, shelter, clothing, medical, and health facilities. And the Buddha said that poverty is a cause of crime. And the ruler was trying to put more and more punishment, more and more fear of punishment in an attempt to stop crime. But the Buddha said, no, that's not the way. If you wish to stop crime, then you make sure everybody has a job, everybody has land to till, there is education, and then crime will stop. Thus, from the not giving of property to the needy so that they can use to plant, it was an agrarian society those days, poverty became rife. And from the growth of poverty, the taking of what was not given increased. And from the increase of theft, the use of weapons. And then with the increased use of weapons, the taking of life. And I think this is something we are all seeing now as the economy continues to deteriorate. So can money buy happiness? Yes, if we spend it wisely. No, if we selfishly use it for just self-gratification. Then it will buy you a lot of things which will just temporarily stimulate your senses, but it's not going to make you happy for a very long time. I often tease Brother Ju Sing in my Johor group. When you are in your 20s and you buy a BMW, that's because you think it brings more women. And then you realize that the BMW banyak masuk workshop. And then you realize it banyak makan wang. And then you realize that the only thing you got is that it brings more worries. And finally, when you have the insight, it brings more wisdom. So if you spend your money wisely, yes, of course, it can bring happiness. When used wisely to support family, relatives, people in need, it provides happiness, which is, as I said, not found in sensual gratification. So if you use money to buy pleasures, then yes, it will give you a lot of temporary pleasure, but not necessarily happiness. And even for the Sangha, the monastic community, the Buddha taught them to practice contentment. Even within the Sangha community, they must practice contentment. Content with whatever robes that they have, accommodation, and live a simple life and practice, because they are literally on a full-time scholarship, everything being provided by the laity. And in the Mangala Sutta, the Buddha says reverence, humility, contentment, gratitude, and the timely hearing of the Dhamma. This is the highest blessings. But Brother Dr. Quack, it's important to also realize that letting go does not mean you own nothing. What it means is that you do not allow anything to own you. So by all means, own what you need. By all means, buy what you need. But do not allow that item to own you. You will know what I mean as you go along. So those who seek knowledge will collect something every day. But those who seek the way, they actually let go of something every day. And I have already taught many a times on the concept of wu, which means not to be attached, to let go. Now, Buddhists are not doormats. When there is nothing we can do about a situation, well, let's accept it. Do nothing. When there is something that you can do to improve a situation, by all means do it. Buddhists are not doormats. So if you look at these 4 squares, if it is a situation in which we can control, for example, let's say one of the brothers or one of the sisters' factory here got exposed to COVID-19, then we certainly must act and act very quickly. Let us get the professional people to come and sanitize the building. There is something you can do. That's mastery. But there are things that we cannot do. Aging, decay, losing hair, and many people spend tons of money in a futile effort to slow it down. Now, if you can do something and you don't do it, then that's surrender. And that is very sad. Now, if you cannot do something and you don't act, you accept it, that is serenity. So you can either choose, Sister Liming, mastery or serenity in the things that we face in life. So look at this couple here with the t-shirts, which are so Buddhist. If something can be done, just do it. That's Didi Angeline. If nothing can be done, one of my favorite t-shirts, just do nothing. Now, wealth provides us with personal freedom. That's for sure. If you're going to have to work 10 hours a day just to put food on the table, you're not going to have much personal freedom. So with wealth, you can have personal freedom. But we must be aware and accept full responsibility for our action and behavior. Because when we are not mindful, we can make very silly decisions, which we will regret later. And the Buddha even talked about these silly decisions to us, teaching us to avoid them. Let us always go back and remind ourselves, let us remember that the purpose of life is a life of purpose. And that purpose is up to you and I to define ourselves. This really, in a way, depend on your talents, what you are comfortable with. If you're comfortable with teaching, so I've dedicated many years of my life to teaching because I think that's something I can do to help. If many people are comfortable with and very skillful in organizing, moderating, etc., then please do it. Gladians, for example, DDs, for example, are doing fantastic work. That's purpose. So if there is no purpose in your life, then you are directionless. Every day, wake up, 食飯, 瞓覺, that's it, directionless. And it is up to every one of us to give our lives a meaning, a purpose. It is not fixed, it's not predetermined, it's in our hands. And do not forget that in the Noble Eightfold Path, right livelihood is one of the 8 factors. So our livelihood, brothers and sisters, is our spiritual path. So every day as you wake up and then you spend the next 12 hours, how you spend that next 12 hours is part of our spiritual practice. Now, materially, do we have enough? Does Brother Whaley, does Brother Ling Hua, does Sister Eileen, do you have enough? Enough, of course, is never enough for many people. And those who do not know what enough is cannot move on because they can't let go. Having enough, Brother Dr. Quack, does not mean giving up all the activities of the world. No, no, no. In contrast, when you say you have enough, saying yes to enough now gives you that freedom to move from success to significance. You now have the luxury of doing things that really matter. So realizing enough sets us free to achieve our spiritual goals instead of an endless pursuit of wealth. Otherwise, no matter how old or young, we will end up like this cartoon. If only I had her figure. And then she said, if only I have her diamonds. And then he says, if only I had his money. And he says, if only I had his wife. We will never be content and go nowhere. And those of us working hard to enjoy or pursue luxuries, remember, even when you win the rat race, you're still a rat. So what is greed versus need is to be clear in our mind. It is the greed for money that justifies any way of acquiring it that is rejected in Buddhism. When a person earns his or her money by the sweat of his brow, by the strength of his arm, without breaking the 5 moral precepts, which you just chanted, the Buddha said that that is righteous wealth, righteously earned. I repeat, this is money that Sister Li Ming earned by the sweat of her brow in teaching, correction, marking, etc., and the strength of her arm without breaking the Panchasila, the 5 basic precepts which we all chanted. That whatever money that Sister Li Ming had earned, that is righteous wealth, righteously earned. And by all means, Sister Li Ming can use that wealth for her own comfort, buy the nice aircon, nice bed, nice mattress, etc. Take good care of her family, her friends. When I come to KL, take me out for a nice meal. And of course, for those people who are in need, special need homes, special need people, and of course, those worthy ones who are pursuing the path. So, what is the fastest way to get rich? Simple. Follow the Buddha's advice. So, for those of you who are relatively young, working very hard to earn money to become rich, follow the Buddha's advice and you will be rich. And the Buddha first and foremost started by telling us, earn your wealth righteously, neither for the sake of oneself nor for the sake of another, nor desiring sun, wealth, or kingdom, should a person seek his own success by unjust means. Then only is a man indeed virtuous, wise, and righteous. Earn your wealth righteously. And I've already mentioned this. Righteous wealth is earned through your efforts and enterprise, amassed through the strength of your arm, piled up through the sweat of your brow. Righteous wealth, righteously earned. This can provide you with pleasure and satisfaction. But please maintain that pleasure rightly. The Buddha even teaches how to increase our wealth. And there are 4 sources, the Buddha said, for the increase of your wealth. All listen carefully. How to increase wealth? Stay away from womanizing. That's the first one, the very first one. Stay away from womanizing. Of course, in the 21st century, where women are equally capable and powerful business people, I suppose stay away from manizing is also equally accepted. Stay away from drunkenness, because when you are drunkard, you're going to make poor decisions. Stay away from gambling. Stay away from people who are going to influence you negatively. That is friendship and companionship with evildoers. You mix with the wrong company, you will pick up bad habits, and that's the end. So avoid losing wealth, and this is the same for you want to lose your wealth, very easy. Go womanize, go get drunk, go gamble, mix with the wrong crowd. That's it. You're going to lose all your wealth. And I think we know of stories like this so often of how not just individuals, but even families lose their wealth because of this. Now, money can buy a very nice bed, but it does not assure a good night's sleep. It can buy you a lovely house, but not necessarily a home. But of course, we all need a bed and a house. So earn money righteously so that we can build a home and sleep well. But always remember that if your life is so consumed by the overwhelming drive to earn money, then that price may be too high. And the most comfortable bed may mean little, and an empty house has no meaning. The Buddha even advised all of us to invest wisely. In the Sigalovada Sutta, the Buddha advised Sigalovada, a young man, and he said, whatever wealth you have, whatever money you have, divide it into four. One part should be enjoyed. So yes, please, let's have a good meal. Two parts invested in business. And the fourth set aside against future misfortunes. Now, please note, a large proportion is set aside for investment or entrepreneurship, which means to say, if Sister Eileen earns 10,000, she takes one part of the 10,000, i.e. 2005, buy Elizabeth Arden, buy a nice dress, etc., etc. 5,000 to invest in business, and another 2,005 put in the Jacob biscuit tin and hide underneath her bed. Probably safer than a bank in this time and age now. Now, the Buddha also taught that as far as the family budget is concerned, divide it into five. One part, again, to support and provide for the immediate needs of your family, your servants, etc., your children. And please note the word spouse is singular. One part to extend generosity towards your friends. Again, one part for emergency. And then one part for dedication to the extended family, hospitality, dedicating merits for the departed. Can't run away from Texas 2,600 years ago as of now, and doing things that is dedicating to things that you believe in according to your local custom. And one part to support those people who are practicing well. Now, I think most of us in the audience are familiar with the story of Ananda Pindika. Ananda Pindika, of course, was a peer of the Buddha. He was a banker from Saraswati, the capital of Kosala. And he was a very, very rich man by the standards of his day. And he immortalized himself in his donation of a plot of land for the building of a monastery called Jetavana Monastery, which can be seen even today when you go on pilgrimage. When you go on pilgrimage, one of the sure visit places is Jetavana Grove in Saraswati, which was donated by Anatta Pindika to the new Sangha. And Anatta Pindika literally means one who gives alms, Pindika, to the unprotected Anatta. And he was a very generous man who gave to people who needed help and supported the Sangha. Anatta Pindika became a Sotapan, a stream enterer. But besides that, there were other very rich people who did a lot. King Bimbisara is another peer of the Buddha. In fact, they are the same age. And King Bimbisara was the king of Maganda. And he provided the first monastery, Bamboo Grove. And he was one of the big supporters of the Buddha and the early Sangha. And there is this lady called Visakha. Visakha is the daughter of a millionaire. And the father arranged her marriage to the son of another millionaire. So she was financially rich from both sides of the family. And she was a great female supporter. And she too donated a monastery. So wealth is not intrinsically evil. And rich people, in fact, are in a very privileged position to practice generosity to both the monastic and the lay community. And compassionate giving to the poor and the needy is in fact a virtue in its own right. So, brother Dr. Quack, by all means, earn as much as you can, be as rich as you can, earning your wealth righteously. Then you are in a very privileged position, like some of our friends, the senior brothers here, who had earned their wealth righteously and are now using it to really do a lot of good things in society. Now, Chitta was a rich merchant and a landowner. And if you go to the Samyutta Nikaya, you will see a whole section dedicated to him. He's a layman, he's not a monk. But he could teach the Dhamma to the citizens so well that the Buddha considered him the most learned and lucid of the lay Dhamma teachers. And he would even teach the monks the Dhamma. Now, Chitta later on became an anagami, a non-returner. So, for all of us, whether you're still active in business or you're retired or you're still working hard, be constantly mindful that we cannot live forever and that we cannot take anything with us when we die. But we can leave a bit of ourselves behind, that we have made a difference to someone and help someone become a better person. So for a better tomorrow, we can give our best today. Because the honest truth is life is the one thing we cannot get out of alive. Charity, the Buddha said. If beings knew the result of giving and sharing, they would not eat without having given, nor would they allow the stain of meanness to obsess them and take root in their minds. Even if it was the last morsel of food, they would not enjoy eating it without having shared it. So this was how the Buddha praised dana. But dana, of course, is not just money or food. Dana can be skill. And I have shared this many a times. Personally, I think that the most of the material things that we share, the most important is time. The greatest gift is, of course, the gift of the Dhamma. Because the Dhamma not only changes your thinking, your life, your children's life, your family life, it even changes your future and your future lives. But when I talk of the mundane things that we can share with each other, the greatest of the mundane things that I can share with you, my dear Dhamma family, is my time. Because I can share with you a book, I can always get another book. I can even share with you money if you need it. I can always earn more money. But whenever I share my time with you, it is gone forever. I cannot in any way get back time. And my time, as well as your time, is limited. Every day is one day less now. So that's why for both my son-in-laws, my sons-in-law, for both of them, I gave them a classic pocket watch each. And of course, they wonder, why would dad give me a pocket watch? You know, those old ancient pocket watches. When I married my wife, my father-in-law gave me a pocket watch. So I gave one pocket watch to the first son-in-law, and the second one, I bought another one and gave it to him. Because I want them to ask, why of all gifts you gave us a pocket watch which hardly anybody used? And that's because I was trying to teach them that time is the one thing that I value very, very much. Because we can never get back time. I wanted them to spend some time with us. So it is very easy to say we love each other. It is very easy to chant, may you be well, may I be well. But words are important because it trains our mind, but it is more important to demonstrate it in our actions because our actions speak so loud that most people cannot hear what we say. Ultimately, what we think, what we know, what we believe in as faith, in the end is of very little consequence. The only consequence ultimately is what we do. And what did the Buddha teach in this? What you do is your karma. You're born of your karma. You're created by your karma. You are the heir of your karma. So ultimately, what Sister Eileen believes in, frankly, is immaterial. What you believe in is what you believe in. That's it. What you finally actually do based on what you know and what you believe in is the important thing. So the Buddha advised that you must be like a bee collecting nectar. You don't enjoy the flower or the color or the fragrance. So that is how we are to earn our living. Our occupation must be like a bee collecting nectar. And I had said, among the various major religions, I only see it in the Buddha Dharma, right livelihood, as one of the steps of the spiritual path. Very important for us to realize, in the Noble Eightfold Path, right livelihood is one of the steps. For Brother Dr. Quack, every day you go to work, when you see patients, when you treat patients, that is right livelihood. That is your spiritual path in practice every day. So similarly, when Sister Eileen does business on the Zoom nowadays, when Brother Ju Sing sells engine oil and tires, when so many of us are involved in whatever our occupations are, that occupation is part of the spiritual path, in which no harm must be done. So 2,600 years ago, the Buddha gave 5 broad categories. Today, I am very sure there is more than these 5 categories. But the principle behind it is that our livelihood must be earned without harming other things, harming other beings. So you must be earning your livelihood in a manner which is preferably helpful, preferably with metta karuna, and never harming. These occupations, unfortunately, create pain and suffering. So going beyond dana is something which is important because dana is basically the foundation of our practice. And when you have dana, the next step is sila. For those of us in Malaysia, you understand the Malay word sila. And that understanding of the Malay word sila is so important for our understanding of the Buddha Dharma. Because basically, the Buddha taught us sila, which is your mannerism, the way we behave, the way we interact to cause a harmonious society. Not something, wow, out there, wow, that's the Buddhist sila, Sila, when applied, is basically mannerisms, like what we say in Malay. But you've got to go on, go beyond the dana, go beyond the sila. When faced with the ups and downs of life, and if your mind can remain unshaken, not lamenting, not generating defilements, and always feeling secure, that means your mind is still not doing this, but a mind that is calm and still. In Chinese, which is a direct translation of the Pali, Ba Feng Bu Dong, the 8 winds that blow of gain and loss, praise and blame, etc. Do not make your emotions swing from end to end, but you remain still and calm. Ru ru putong. Whatever happens, your mind is still. So in Chinese, when they say, oh, Brother Ling Huat, ba feng cui putong, that literally means Brother Ling Huat is enlightened. His mind is so well trained, so still, so calm, that these 8 emotional winds do not push him. Ru ru putong. His mind is steady like a rock. And this is the greatest happiness. This, of course, you will recognize is from the Mangala Sutta. So the Buddha wanted us, even as lay people, from Sister Eileen to Sister Mei Chong to Brother Whaley to Brother Joseph, that I see on my screen here, that our practice should not end with dana. It also should not end with sila. We should, as lay people, at the very least, aim for stream entry. Entering the stream is the word used to describe someone who has understood certain key aspects of the Buddha Dharma. He has put his one leg into the stream of the flow. So, Sister Eileen, do not think that stream entry is, wow, something out there, beyond me, it needs a big blast from the sky, boom, and then I'm a stream enterer. That's unfortunately the public misconception. But if you look at the canon, if you look at the Nikayas, what are the conditions that can make Brother Jusing or Brother Whaley or Brother Chubun become a Sotapan, become a stream enterer? 1, association with people of integrity, listening to the true Dhamma, appropriate attention. That means when you're listening to this talk, don't play with your handphone. When you're listening to this talk, don't be eating kway chap at the side at the same time. Appropriate attention. Practice in accordance with the Dhamma. No mention of jhanas. No mention of deep states of meditation. Now, the prerequisite of stream entry is fundamentally right view. That means you need to know a lot of the Dhamma. And to know right view means you must understand the Dhamma deeply. The Buddha said, even if these trees, the Sala trees, can understand what is spoken, then they will also become stream enterers. So listening and understanding the Dhamma to get right view is the prerequisite to stream entry. And then Sister Li Ming may say, but then Dr. Wong, the 4 Nikaya so thick, Digha Nikaya, Majjhima Nikaya, Samyutta Nikaya, Anguttara Nikaya, how to read. You only need, Sister Li Ming, to know that despite the Buddha having taught 84,000 Dhamma teachings, that is how Ananda described it. Ananda described 82,000 by the master, 2,000 by the disciples. Total of 84,000 Dhamma teachings. And so Sister Li Ming thinking, wow, how am I going to study 84,000 Dhamma teachings? No, Sister Li Ming, don't worry. All you need to know within the 84,000 Dhamma teachings, all Sister Li Ming need to know is 8, the 8-fold path. 4, the 4 noble truths. And the 0, 0, 0, the 3 universal characteristics of anicca, dukkha, anatta. If you truly understand this, you will be a stream enterer. Remember, the first person who became a stream enterer, Anya Kondana, he only listened to the 4 noble truths and the 8-fold path in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. The other 4 became Sotapans, and later on, subsequently, of course, all became Arahants when they listened to the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, which explained the 3 universal characteristics. Okay? So these are the core teachings. So entering the stream is our aim. The ideal householder, not just a supporter, but a participant. And as I said, dana, sila, though essential, by itself is insufficient. You must have right view. Now, this is the happiness dissociation curve. I hope Brother Joseph is teaching it to his management students. But this is the happiness dissociation curve. That is, as you earn more and more money, so Sister Eileen starts here, then she earns more and more money. So as she earns what is enough to pay for the roof and all the food and the basic needs, she's happy. So as she earns more, she will achieve almost all the happiness that she can achieve. Beyond that is what is called static happiness. So beyond that, whatever she earns is not going to increase her happiness anymore. So this is the happiness dissociation curve. All right, those very smart accountants here would have quickly calculated this US dollar into Malaysian ringgit and try and figure out how much you need. Of course, this hasn't taken into consideration inflation and devaluation of currency. But what I'm trying to point is that all of us needs our basic needs to be met. When your basic needs are met, then your wants beyond that is not going to provide much more happiness. I.e., you start off with a Myvi, that's your need. Then, of course, if you travel a lot, you want to go on and buy a Toyota, that's your want. But beyond that, it's a luxury. So if you look at the fulfillment curve, these are our needs, our wants, and there your BMW is there. Beyond that, you're not going to get much more fulfillment. And the reason is because some things can be achieved by money. These cannot be achieved by money. And don't forget that if you are healthy, you are already wealthy, you know. You meet someone who is sick, chronically ill, and of course, that will be the first thing they will tell you. Don't take it for granted. And the Buddha said it very well, that health is your greatest gift, contentment your greatest wealth. The richest person on earth is the one who sleeps at night content. Now, there is no point to be the richest man in the cemetery. I didn't say it. Steve Jobs, the one who made the computer that I'm using, said it. There's no point to be the richest man in the cemetery. Being the richest man in the cemetery doesn't matter to me. Going to bed at night saying, I've done something wonderful. That is what matters. So let's take a look at this story. The bus was very crowded. There's no place to sit. Then the seat became vacant. And the person next to the seat could easily occupy it, but he offered this person the seat instead. And another bus stop, again a seat came up empty, and again he offered it to another person. And this happened 4 times in the entire bus journey, and the man looked obviously tired. So at the end, this person asked him, why are you giving up the seat every time to another person? And he replied, I haven't studied nor have much money. Nothing to give, neither knowledge nor money. The only thing I can do to others is this. So I do this every day. And though working every day, I can still tahan a little more. When I gave you the seat, you said, thank you. I felt happy. I believe I'm doing something to the best of my abilities, and it's a source of satisfaction. So I do this every day and go home refreshed and happy. Now his answer showed to the questioner that in fact, he's the most educated among us all. And while beautiful clothes, money, cars, luxuries may or may not make one rich and happy, a simple act of giving is enough to make you feel rich and happy. You all remember Einstein's famous equation relating energy and mass. E is equals to mc squared. So enlightenment, mindfulness, and huge doses of concentration and compassion. Concentration can be translated as stillness. And that is how you progress to Buddhahood. So I want to thank you Religion is in the life that we live, not in what we fill in our IC or forms, not in what we tell everybody, not in the creed that we profess. By all means, be rich, but righteously. And do not be crazy. Use your money well to live a life of significance. And here I want to show you a video because some people think, is it even possible that you can do this? Now, I do not know how many of you have heard of a man called Chuck Feeney. Very few of us would have heard of this man. But Chuck Feeney is on par with Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. He is that rich. And I told Sister Eileen that every time you fly a year ago and you're at a duty-free shop in an airport and you're buying something, you're contributing to Chuck Feeney's wealth. But Chuck Feeney lived such a simple life that no one could believe it. And he's in his late 70s now. He calculated that all he needed is about 1 million US to live out the rest of his life with his wife and himself. And so he had made it his ambition in life to give away his entire wealth to charity. And a few months ago, it was in the news, both in the printed ones and in the internet, that he had finally down to his last million. He has succeeded. So I'm going to show you a little clip on Chuck Feeney that teaches me so much about dana, about contentment, about earning and then using it to live a life of significance. Hang on, it's not moving. Let me do it again.
Lives with his wife in an ordinary rental apartment in the city of San Francisco. He never wears branded clothing. His glasses are trusted and aged. His watches are functional and unglamorous. He does not have his own car. His primary means of transportation is the bus. And the bag he uses for work is an old plastic bag. But surprisingly, over the course of his life, he has donated more than $8 billion to charitable causes. Who is this man? Well, his name is Chuck Feeney. He's frugal with himself, but generous with others. He likes to make money, but does not like to spend it on himself. Through his lifetime, he has contributed $588 million to Cornell University, $125 million to the University of California, and $60 million to Stanford University. Outside of the United States, he spent $1 billion renovating and then building a further 7 new universities in Ireland. Incredibly, he also founded a charity fund aimed at providing cleft-lip surgery for children in developing countries. More incredibly still, Chuck never sought praise for his many contributions. He admirably never revealed his name in association with each donation, but asked for his donations to be made anonymously. Towards the end of his life, Chuck Feeney's selfless and astounding deeds were revealed by the media. When Chuck eventually did face the press and was asked the inevitable question of, why did you choose to donate all of your wealth to charity? Chuck Feeney simply smiled and said, people are born naked and then finally die alone. And he continued, no one can carry the wealth and reputation that he himself has been striving for a lifetime. A reporter asked Chuck Feeney once more, why did you donate all of your fortunes? Chuck Feeney smiled cheerfully and gave an unbelievable answer, beyond anyone's imagination. Because the corpse cover does not have a bag. Chuck Feeney has set an example for the rich all over the world. 2 great American tycoons, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, have attempted to adopt his way of thinking and strive to follow in his actions. Think for the people while enjoying life at the same time. Chuck Feeney.
So brothers and sisters, I hope this had shared with you some aspects of the Buddhist teachings with regards to how we should earn our wealth and how we should use our wealth and how we should not walk away with the misconception that there is something evil or wrong with wealth. There is nothing as long as you earn it righteously. We should also realize that without wealth, you are going to be very limited in the options that you have. But with adequate money, you can now really live a life of significance, as had been demonstrated by so many people. Of course, Chuck Finney being one extreme example. But the point is, earn it righteously, use it well, enjoy your wealth righteously as well. Do not fail to remember that while you have that luxury, that responsibility for all our decisions rests with us. Thank you very much. Back to you, Sister Eileen.
Thank you, Dr. Puna, for the sharing. This topic is so relevant to us, even to this day. It is common in nature that greed will take place when you are craving for more and never seems to have enough of it. Yeah. Greed does not necessarily have to be in monetary terms. When we have more wants than needs, it is also a form of greed. Buddha's teaching is a kind reminder to us that we can be rich in showing loving kindness and acts of selflessness towards all beings. This is so that we can live in a more meaningful way on our journey in life. To all our online viewers, please continue to post your question on Facebook comments. Let us start with one question from my side. Taking me as an example, actually, when I was being given added responsibility, right? In fact, my boss was asking, Eileen, what do you want to be? So I told my boss that, actually, I already reached the position that you are giving me the opportunity to have this added responsibility to taking care of few countries. So to me, I said is I already satisfied. I already contented. But for MNC company, right? They'll always go for, you need to have a self-development. Yeah, you need to aim to go higher. But I'm already satisfied. How am I supposed to I do not have that desire to go to that extent. Why do I want to stress myself more with that, you see? So in this situation, I was already in the dilemma. I said, boss, I'm actually quite happy with where I am now. But to the higher management, they'll say that, wow, Eileen, you do not have any ambition. You just stick to that. So they were saying that, oh, this kind of subordinate, not sure whether is it okay or not, in the long term. So what is your advice in this situation?
I think, Sister Eileen, you have already answered your question yourself. I just saw on the chat, someone commented that what if you live for a very long time and you don't have enough money to last a very long time? Well, my reply is, what if you die tomorrow? There are so many things in life that we can not predict. We can plan, we can have all kinds of grand ideas, but there are much in life which is anatta. We cannot predict and we cannot control. And that is one of the fundamental truths that the Buddha taught us. So I think Sister Eileen is very well balanced. She knows exactly what she wants. She knows that she has achieved what she has wanted to achieve, and she's content with it. And I realize, of course, that she's a very powerful woman in charge of many countries. Now her boss wants her to be even more powerful, for which she is not very interested. So I think, Sister Eileen, your bosses, of course, are working on the mantra of greed is the grease which drives the wheels of commerce. Well, as I told right at the very beginning, that seems to be the thinking in the business world. But You will have to strike a balance because certainly if you just keep on earning and earning and earning and not using that wealth well, you are probably going to end up not too happy. As I said, you might change to now a BMW 7 Series or whatever, but how much happiness can that give you? So I would think that you are doing very well. Then you don't have to ask me the question. You have actually answered the question yourself. That answer to your question is well within you. Now, I retired at 60. At 60, I gave up my medical practice, and people, my colleagues, some of them tell me I'm mad. Why would you give up your medical practice at the age of 60? You can go on another 10 years. My answer is, why not 20? To be very frank, I can easily go on 10 years, 20 years. But the question that is asked of myself is, what do I want to do? And I've always looked at my life as three parts. If you look at the typical Malaysian, it's 74 years old for a man, 80 for a woman, average. Huh? So to make it easy, 75 for a man. If I'm to live to 75, if it's 25, 25, 25. 25 years, you study like crazy, which is what I did. And 25 years, you work like crazy because you've got to raise your family. You can't abandon your responsibilities. And my children are all grown up. They've all migrated. It's only me and my wife. So I look at her and she looks at me, and we are reaching the last 25 years of my life. So at 50, I would have reached the last 25 years, but never mind, I'll be kiasu a bit, work another 10 more years, just in case. So by 60, I said, no, enough is enough. I'm going to retire from clinical practice, and I must do what I want to do because, as I said earlier, Sister Eileen, you're moving from success materially to significance. I hope I'm doing that I'm moving away from success of material gains to a significance in which I can do something in life to help myself and each other. So as to how long we can live, nobody knows, I mean, of course, someone here say, what if you live to a very ripe old age, then you run out of money? Or, well, as I said, you can also die tomorrow, and what's going to happen? So we have to strike a balance and hope that your savings, your investments, etc., will help you. All right, but Eileen, you're doing very well. Come more into the DDs and the Gladians and contributing significantly.
Thank you. There's also another question from Brother David Ting Siong Pin. His question says, many people are unhappy because they fail to differentiate between needs and wants. Do you agree? Thank you, Dr. Punna.
Yeah, of course, that was what I stated early in the sharing. We have to tell between our needs and our wants. And our needs and our wants, of course, also vary from generation to generation. Our grandparents' needs were more fundamental than ours. My grandparents' needs were just to feed the family, that's it. But when it came to our generation, you need to educate your children. And so I drive a Auza, as many of you know, but I tell people I have a Ferrari. It's just that Ferrari is in the United Kingdom because that's where my first daughter did her education. And so that Ferrari was spent on her. It's parked somewhere in UK, I say virtually. Okay, and I say I drive a Lamborghini in Australia, and that's because I sent the second daughter to Australia and she studied there and didn't come back. So this is what we mean. So our needs have changed, Brother David. Your needs are quite different from your grandparents' needs. Theirs was basically food on the table. Now you need to educate your children. So what next then? Are you going to educate your grandchildren as well? Are you going to work and save and say, I need to educate my grandchildren? In which case, of course, there'll be no end to it, because if you want to educate your grandchildren, no one can stop you. But you are going to spend literally your entire life doing it. I can only say if you're wonderfully happy doing it, well, of course, that's fine. But if you think that you can spend your time doing something else more meaningfully, more significantly, I thought that I could contribute more by teaching, which is why I quit and joined teaching. People say, you're mad. How much can they teach you how much can they pay you as a teacher? Yeah, I agree. I haven't had a pay rise for more than 10 years, because in teaching, very soon, you reach the top level and that's it, you're stuck. So these are the realities, but I'm very happy to teach. I'm actually very, very happy to teach because my students find it helpful. They still write to me regularly, even some 10 years after graduation, they still write to me and tell me about their life. So I think, Brother David, you're absolutely right. Your needs will vary because of the times, all right? My grandfather, maternal grandfather, needed 3 wives. I only needed 1. So that's a downgrade. If he's alive, he would have looked at me and shake his head and say, "You're terrible fellow." But he had 3 wives. He needed 3 wives. I only needed 1.
Thank you. There's another question from Duka Kos. His question is, what do you think if a monopolized business that earn too much profit that just earn much lesser to help people? For example, Google phone markup say 100% instead of 20% profit.
Well, the very fact, brother, no, the name is not given that. If you have to ask a question like that, means you are not happy with the profit margin. In almost all industries, that's a relatively standard markup for profit. All right, you ask income tax, they will know exactly what's your markup for profit because they have studied it over many, many years. So if most of us hang around that standard markup for profit, no one can accuse you of profiteering. Well, that's the word, literally profiteering. But then, of course, there are some jokers that literally go to one extreme end. And of course, every now and then you get arrested for so-called profiteering. In Malaysia, I can only speak, for example, for the medical profession, which is actually quite well regulated in the sense that the doctor can only charge within certain amounts for whatever he does. And drug marks up are pretty standardized, and income tax is very well aware of all this. So if you so-called are profiteering, people will complain to council that your charges are exorbitant. Then of course you will get into trouble. In the business world, of course, I am not so familiar, but I can only well imagine those of you in the business circle here may probably know this better. But I'm also quite sure there must be an accepted margin in most industries as a decent margin and not profiteering. All right. Eileen, maybe you can tell me about the chemical industry.
No comment.
No comments.
Okay, there's another question. Brother Tong Kok Wai. I need a lot. Actually, greed for food, for fame, for money, or drugs, so many things. Where does it end? So, Brother Puna, to find the answer is, as you say, in knowing your mind, to look at our mind, isn't it?
Brother Dr. Tong Kok Wai is a good friend of mine of many, many years. One of the good people in Kuala Lumpur. Every time people in JB needs a medical opinion or say, who do I refer to in KL and all that, I'll always call up Brother Tong and say, who do you recommend? Because I know him personally to be a very, very good man. And basically, that is not a question, but a statement. What he has just said is actually a statement. Brother Tong Kok Wai can easily work and earn lots of money for many more years, but he's spending his time taking care of grandchildren and playing with grandchildren. He has understood the word contentment. And I think that that is very, very important. I think that we have to realize at any point in our career that there has to be a point whereby what you sacrifice for your work is no longer as satisfying as in the early years when your needs were different. Now, Brother Tong Kok Wai's needs is really to help his son establish his family, the grandchildren to have a stable background, etc., etc., and of course, enjoy his time with his grandchildren. And I think he's doing very, very well. All right. So he has understood the word contentment, and also Brother Tong has years and years of supporting the Sangha community and our local community, and I salute him for it. So if we all follow examples like that, while he may not be Chuck Finney, he is in his way doing what he can to contribute to Malaysian society. Let me put it to you another thing, Sister Eileen. You know, when Brother Tong Kok Wai and I were young doctors, the question always arises, and even my friends had asked me, why didn't you migrate? You would have earned lots of money if you had just migrated overseas. All right, that was actually a question. When I came back from UK with my postgraduate, one of the questions people ask me is, why don't you migrate? You earn lots more money, earn a much more comfortable life. And at that time, the question I asked was, am I needed? If I had migrated to Australia or some other place, I would just be another doctor. That time, Malaysia was very short of doctors. So we stayed because we all felt we could contribute. Out of my class of 120 odd that graduated, only a handful, I think less than 5 migrated. The vast majority of us stayed back when we could have migrated. So in that sense, we are contributing our service, we are contributing whatever our skills are so that it's a life of significance. And I think that what we need to strike a balance is earning money is important. Please do not walk away with the misconception that Dr. Wong said no need to earn money, who's going to feed you. Remember, as I said, poverty is not at all something that the Buddha thinks is good. You must eradicate poverty, if not you're going to have crime, etc., etc. So please, we all need money. We all need to earn a living. It's how you earn that money and how you spend that money which is important. Okay?
Thank you. There's another question from Alessandra Chin. Her question is manifestation work on creating wealth?
Sorry, don't understand the question.
Okay, we'll move on to another question, yeah. Dr. Punna, should we keep earning so that we have more money to leave behind for our children? Or we should call it a day when we think we have enough for retirement?
Okay, I suppose you're asking the right person because my children are big. More my peers are also in my same position. How long are you going to keep on? And I share the same view with my wife that we had given them the best education that money can buy. We had given them a passport for whatever they want to do in the world. We had helped them start off in life. And I think that that is enough. If we are to keep on doing more and more and more, wouldn't we create basically people who are going to be saying, oh, don't worry, my old man will take care of it. You know, anything, old man, I need to buy a house, old man, in that sense, I think we might be teaching or inculcating wrong values. So I think that it is important that, yes, of course, we will help. And in fact, we always tell them, if ever you need help, we are here. We are here to provide help, always. But I don't think we should go overboard, you know. And of course, I agree with you entirely that there are members, there are brothers and sisters who actually go very, very overboard, you know, literally work for the generation below. But I think that we have to realize that all the education you gave them is to provide them with the ability to earn and take care of themselves, isn't it? I think that we would not have trained them well if even at that age they are still dependent on us for whatever their needs are. All right. So I'm sure almost all the people listening in today here are financially independent and not living off their parents. Right, Eileen?
Well, Dr. Punya, I wanted to put one comment here is that, you know, I think it's a different generation. Your generation is, it is still the old generation, whereas right now, those who are the parents to the children are born in the generation of abundance compared to your time. So the upbringing lifestyle will also be different towards the showing the love to the children.
Don't spoil them.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. You call it strawberry generation, right nowadays.
Snowflake, not strawberry. Now it's snowflake.
No flake.
Yeah, a little bit of heat, they melt. Strawberry was before that.
All
Now it's
right.
snowflake generation.
There's also another question here from Ravi Chandra Kumar. His question is, do you see material wealth as currency or spiritual wealth as what moves the body? This fear of what becomes is the failure to see things in the right perspective. We are all trapped within the mundane worldly conditions and spinning with our upbringing. What do you think?
Every time Ravi asks a question, I have to take a dictionary and look through very carefully. You know? But never mind, I think I get the gist of what he's trying to say. You need both material wealth and spiritual wealth. Material wealth is what's going to feed your body, what's going to put food on the table, buy the house, buy the car, pay for the petrol. Because without that material wealth, how are you going to continue even to pursue your spiritual pursuits? Spiritual pursuits require that you must have a capable body and that you already are not someone struggling hand to mouth. So material wealth is certainly needed. As the Buddha said, if there is no material wealth, you can't even keep your sila. The very fact that you can keep your pancha sila, as I always share to the anger of many people, is not because you are a very good person, but because the conditions are there for you to keep your pancha sila. Are you aware of that, Sister Eileen? The very fact that you can keep your pancha sila is not because you are a very noble person, a saint. It is purely because the conditions are there for you to keep your pancha sila. If those conditions change, you may not be able to keep your pancha sila. As I gave an example, 9 meals of anarchy. By the 9th missing meal, you will kill your neighbor for food to feed your child. So the conditions are there for us to lead our so-called very, very virtuous and moral life. If those conditions change, you are anatta. Even you have no control over that. And I think that that understanding requires quite a lot of reflection. And some people get angry with me when I tell them that. Oh, I keep my precepts. What do you mean? Well, that's one. And please remember that once you remove this ability for everybody to earn and have jobs and feed, once that breaks down, society will break down. As the Buddha clearly said, when society breaks down, you can forget about pursuing spiritual pursuits. Because to pursue spiritual pursuits, you need stable society. In the midst of war, it's going to be very difficult. Look, our Sangha, we support them. How can you and I support them? That's because we are relatively comfortable. We have the means to support them. Remember in Sri Lanka, it was so bad that they cannot even ordain monks. The numbers dropped so drastically because of colonialism, because of war, because of all kinds of problems. So both material wealth is needed, and of course spiritual wealth. If without the foundation of material wealth, we won't be here sitting. How am I going to afford this nice monitor in which I'm looking at you, this nice computer talking to you? This rides on material wealth. And so with this, now we can talk about spiritual wealth, we engage and say, how can we improve our spiritual wealth? All right, Ravi, I hope I answered your question. Okay, yes, we are all trapped in mundane worldly conditions. None of us can escape from that. So while we live in these mundane worldly conditions, we make the best use of our life here and we make the best use of our time here. I think that one of the great tragedies in life is that people do not realize the value of their time. You know, people have asked me many a times, Brother Punna, they say, what if you have one magical wish, you know, and you can say, blah, then everybody will have that come true. What will you wish for? And I always replied, if I have one wish which a genie can grant me, I will say, let everybody know exactly when he or she will die. Because if you know, Sister Eileen, exactly when you will die, I guarantee you, you will tell your boss to go fly kite. You will use that time in your life doing what you want. But because your boss is working on the assumption that you will live to 90 years old and that you need to make all the money until you're 90 years old, and he is riding on that. So the key to that answer to your own statement just now, as you put all the keys there, is that the Buddha said you must realize that your time is limited. It is anicca. It is anatta. If any one of us in this audience now say, I know exactly when I will die, your behavior will be completely different. You will no longer be concerned with material success. You will only be concerned with significance. But because we think, you know, I got a lot of time, I live long, long time, then maybe later, then your material success. All right, Ravi? Thank you for asking, Ravi.
Okay, in view of time, you take one last question from Brother W.H. Chan. The Malay word murah rezeki. They believe when you donate more, somehow you'll get more. What do you think?
Aha. Aha. Now, that is not dana, that is investment. There is this gospel of prosperity where people think that I Dana 10, I get back 100. I dana 100, I get back 1,000. Now that's not dana. Remember we talked about dana parami. Or maybe I can use Chinese to explain. The Chinese are quite clear. You have what in Chinese we call fukbo, prosperity. That means I do certain things. I might not even believe in the Buddha Dharma. I might not believe anything. But I do something which is good, wholesome. I donate to charity. I help the sick, whatever. I get some degree of karmic return because it's a wholesome act. So what I get return is comfortable life maybe, or whatever that is prosperity, fukbo. It's slightly different from gong tak or merits. Merits is when you do without any spiritual greed. That means you're not saying, I donate this, but in return, then I expect A, B, C, D, E. So that's quite a big difference. All right. So you will remember the famous 3 questions. I don't have time to show you the video, but when Bodhidharma went to China, he was brought to see the Chinese emperor Liang Wuti. Liang Wuti is before Tang Dynasty, and Liang Wuti was a very, very devout Buddhist emperor. If you look at the things he did, it's actually quite amazing. He really donated lots of land for monasteries. He made vegetarianism compulsory. He introduced all kinds of things to promote Buddhism, including holding councils. And one of the things he did was he, besides giving money, he exempted them from taxation, etc., etc. In short, he did a lot of good. So when he met Bodhidharma, one of the questions of the 3 famous questions, one of the questions he asked Bodhidharma is, all these things I've done, what merits do I have? And Bodhidharma's reply, none whatsoever. Of course, he was very upset. And then he went on to ask 2 more questions, which upset him even more. Now, the reality why Bodhidharma replied none whatsoever is that what the emperor was looking for is not merits. He's looking to be praised, for people to say, you're such a good man, etc., etc. And he gets his 15 minutes of fame. He gets, of course, good karmic returns for his investment. That is fukbo. But it is not merits, because Bodhidharma actually explained to him, merits is when you walk the Noble Eightfold Path. Merits is when you develop your mind, and that is not something you can buy with money. All right? So we have to be also very clear in our mind. But I'm not saying please don't get mistaken. Even whatever donation of time, skill is very, very useful. But at the same time, as I said, you must go beyond dana to develop your mind. At least be a sotapan, or aim to be a sotapan. Be a stream enterer. And Malaysia, we got a lot of streams, so we are lucky. Because brother Dr. Henry, who's probably listening in from Singapore, he said, die. In Singapore, we got no stream, we got only longkang. So he said, we become longkang enterers. All right, of course, he's joking.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Punna, in answering the question posted by our viewers.